All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Morgan Nichols. Morgan, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
I am too. And I'll tell you, I've got to start off by giving a shout out to Brianna and the folks over at the Interview Valet platform. Uh, Brianna was the one that introduced you and I. And I'll tell you, Brianna is so awesome because I've probably had a relationship with, I don't know, probably a couple of years, probably 2.5 years. And she reached out to me and she had, she goes, Kevin, she goes, I was checking out the $1 Million Relationships podcast, and I think I've got a couple people that would make great folks for you to interview. And that's what started our relationship. And she has been referring guests my way ever since. And I probably get, I don't know, maybe two or three messages from her a month like that. But in fact, I've got an email in my inbox right now that just came in today. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but whenever I see an email from Brianna, I'm like, oh, it's like Christmas time. It's like I don't know what's in there, but it's gonna be good. and so, and it's and what a powerful testament right there to the power of right relationships, which is what this podcast is all about and stuff. And so I'm curious for you, has Brianna helped to get you quite a few podcast interviews and stuff?
So I think I work with someone different on her team or on the
Okay.
team, but they've helped find, yes, some different podcasts where it really seemed like our story and our messaging aligned with the audience that the podcast host has.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it sounds like maybe then that Brianna might work with podcast hosts maybe, and then you have somebody else that works with you as a guest of getting on
It
podcast.
sounds like that's probably how it
Yeah,
works.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Brianna, if you happen to be listening to this, I just appreciate you so much, and just want to honor that. And so, well, so Morgan, I want to just really dig in because you and I have already got to have a conversation and get to know each other a little bit and stuff. And I want to just really give you the opportunity to share your story. And I'm going to just ask questions to just draw that out of you in a really great way. And so why don't we just start off by just talking a little bit about, what you do and who you serve.
So I am a financial advisor.
Okay.
And so, and I try to be careful with that because there's a lot of different thoughts on what is a financial advisor and what all do they do. And I think many people sometimes think of it as more of a transactional relationship. And we really work with our clients to cover all areas of their financial lives. We do planning, really tied in with our clients' values, what's most important to them. I think that's so important in today's day and age, right? There's artificial intelligence where you can, I think someday you're going to have that step by step guide of, well, this is what you should do. But I know for me, if I work with a personal trainer, I get a lot more done than if I have a workout on the exercises that I need to do. So we're very relationship based. I work with a lot of individuals, families with larger portfolios, as well as small business owners, and help them navigate financial peace of mind.
Yeah. Very good. So, what inspires you most about the work you get to do and the impact you get to make?
I am very growth minded and I'm always trying to be the best version of myself. I really believe in excellence. So I love learning about all the changes that are going on in the industry, what's coming out, what's available, and really trying to simplify it and boil it down into how can this help our clients the best we
Okay.
can. So I work with clients, but I'm also the CEO of our practice. So we have offices in 3 different states. So I'm sitting right now here in Grapevine, Texas, in the Dallas Fort Worth area. We
Okay.
have an office location up in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and then also in the Chicagoland area of Illinois. So
Okay.
I get to lead a team I get to help train younger advisors coming up while also working with advisors that are very well seasoned and sharing perspectives and just building a team that's really focused on making a difference in the lives of others. That's been really fulfilling for me.
Very good. How did you get into this line of work, Morgan?
I think I was destined, Kevin, to be a financial advisor. I am the firstborn of two financial advisors. So
Okay.
Apple did not fall far from the tree. But after college, I sat there and had to decide, where did I think I wanted to go. And I took a job in Boston in wholesaling, corporate finance. Really enjoyed the opportunities and the learning ground there, but quickly realized I wanted to be back working with people.
Okay.
Um, and I wanted to be back making an intentional impact in their lives. I realized I understood this material. I loved it. I enjoy personal finance. And for some people, it just makes their eyes glaze over and they just want to delegate it or not think about it. So I
Uh-huh.
realized there might be something to it. So that's how I started the industry. And then I had the right opportunity to join a practice out here in Texas in 2015 and took that leap of faith. And here I am over 10 years later.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so I'm sure you can give lots of examples for the question that I'm going to ask you now, but I just want to challenge you just come up with one. But what's an example of a result? And you don't have to name names or anything like that, but what's an example of a result that you guys have helped a client get that you're just incredibly proud of, Morgan?
I get to see them all the time, and it just, when you get involved with people and their families, you get to hear stories and see the progress. I have one family I'm working with right now, and we've really made multi-generational family focus
Okay.
something that's important to us. And we're actually working with four generations of this
Wow.
family. So we actually started with one of the generations in the middle, uh, husband and wife in their 30s, trying to raise and grow their children and get everything set up and manage their life. But over time, we ended up working with the parents and the grandparents. And what what really warms my heart is when I see each of these different generations of the family. All of their needs are different. Their
Mhm.
phases of life are different. Their priorities are sometimes different, but all of them want to know that they've got security, that they have a plan in place, and that they're doing everything they need to. And while we still keep everything private from one another when we're working with those generations, it's just really heartwarming to know that this whole family line is seeing the benefit of planning.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is really awesome. Four generations. That's really something. That's really something. And wow, what an impact right there, you know. So I want to switch gears just a little bit. And so I'm going to ask the question I want to ask, and I'm going to phrase this right for the benefit of our listeners. So, Morgan, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really curious to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
I think relationships are so important, and it takes, for me, this takes a little bit of reflection to sit back and go, okay, who are those $1 million relationships? I think there's many to be had in this life. I think it's a lot of your perspective and keeping your eyes open
Mhm.
and looking at how you can drive purpose along the way. When I was thinking about $1 million relationships, and I mean, who's really had that level of significance in my life, the first person that comes to my mind, and I have a few, But the first person that comes to mind is actually my father-in-law. And
Okay.
he is the advisor that when I chose to take that career leap, if I think back, I was 25 years old. I was working in corporate finance. I thought I was doing pretty good in the corporate environment. And I had this opportunity to leave
Okay.
and join him and his team. So when I say join him, I'm talking about leaving my life in Boston, loading up a U-Haul, driving across the country, and starting to be the lead advisor in the Grapevine, Texas office, where he still lived in Virginia and would come down to Texas periodically.
Okay.
And while I was naturally a little cautious about mixing my personal life and my career at that point in time, we really saw something in one another. But more than anything, he saw my potential and he took a chance on me. I look back now and I'm like 25. I have 25-year-olds that work for me. And, to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to take this 25-year-old in, groom her, help her learn this industry, train me, mentor me, and see my ability to step into the leadership was just a huge opportunity. Not only the opportunity to then take the practice that I joined and that I now lead to be a springboard as I continue to grow our firm, right? That was an opportunity that if I didn't have that opportunity to grow in this practice, I don't know that I would have the ability to continue to springboard the way that I am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But just the continued mentorship that I've had, I am always going to be grateful for him. And with achievement being something that is one of my values, this opportunity and this relationship really helped me grow my career.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It is. It's so valuable when we have other people that just uh, place their trust in us and give us those opportunities. And I don't know about you. I've had, I mean, I remember years ago, 1988. I had just got out of spending 4 years in the Army, came back here to Seattle, was trying to figure out how I could get money together to start my own business. And my buddy Scott was like, well, Kev, why don't you go down to Fisherman's Terminal in Seattle and see if you can get yourself a job on one of those fishing boats, go to Alaska. Those guys make all kinds of money. And so I did. I went down and hit in the boats, and I found out really quickly the captains of those boats, they did not hire guys just walking down there on the dock because they were all like, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. But this one captain, John Waddell, he took my name and number, ended up calling me a couple of days later, and he's like, Kev, he's like, I'm a guy short on my crew. And he's like, how fast can you be here? I was like, I can be there with my stuff ready to go in 2 hours. He's like, okay. He's like, come on down. And when you get here, come up to the wheelhouse and see me. And when I did, he's like, Kevin, he's like, I have never done this before. And he's like, and God, I'm just hoping that you don't let me down. And he's like, you are in for the hardest work of your life yet. And and I was so grateful to John for giving me that opportunity that I'm like, man, I am going to work my tail off for this guy. And I will tell you, that was the hardest I ever worked in my life for that 7 years.
Well,
So,
and I think you didn't know what you didn't know,
yeah.
right? But someone took a shot on you and that made all the difference. So I
Yeah.
think that's that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think as you progress in life and in your career, then you also start figuring out who are those relationships that you're going to take a chance on, that might be more peer to peer that can really grow your presence and whatnot. So Um, Kelly Bass is an advisor on my team.
Okay.
We co authored a book together over the past year because we're really intentional to the point that our book is called Intentional Legacy. And in 2023, we started to get to know one another. We met through a women's entrepreneurial group. And I think for many people from the outside, it would not have looked like a match made in heaven. We
Okay.
live in two different states. We serve two different sets of clients. But in 2024, she decided to join and partner her practice with Life Branch Wealth Partners, my firm.
Okay.
And our team now works together. Um, we do a lot virtually together, but we were together this week in person. So we were both in Minneapolis for a conference, and I'm sitting there, and our conversation was just relationship gold. She is so different from me. We have opposite strengths. And in our decision to work together and write this book about how we serve our clients, how we align their values in the overall planning purpose, and really make sure she and I had alignment, we're now sitting there in our hotel room in our pajamas at night making huge strides into how we're aligning different elements of our practice and getting excited about the future. And we're having more fun in our career than we ever could have imagined. So I know having her in my life, I'm going to be able to do so much more than I could have done on my own,
Yeah.
because I think we have to find people that complement our strengths
Yeah.
and can also speak truth in our lives so we can become the sharpest versions of ourselves and sharpen one another. So, I also want to give a shout out to Kelly because she's just made doing this career so wonderful, and we have such a great team that we're working with today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When we find the right people, when we find the right partners, what have you, man, we can accomplish so much more together with like-minded people than we could ever accomplish on our own, and that's
Mhm.
that's pretty much exactly what you're talking about and what you guys have been able to achieve. And so, yeah, congratulations. That is awesome. That is
Thank
awesome.
you.
So,
Well, and you're talking about achievement. So, and I just recognize that about myself. I'm wired a certain way. I'm very driven. It's just who I am. But I had a point in my life, I was sitting there and I was saying, why? Why do we work so hard? What's the purpose behind it all? And I can work all day. I can come home. I can be fulfilled in my career. But when I really dived into my values, I realized that family is something that really does matter to me. And so as I was thinking about this whole $1 million relationships, it opened another avenue for me. I think an area that a lot of families don't always talk about. A lot of people don't talk about challenges with fertility or challenges with having a family,
mhm, mhm.
but it's something I've felt that sharing my story is sometimes important so others can feel comfortable sharing theirs. And I had two doctors in my life that navigated with me the challenge from, okay, we don't think you're going to be able to have children, to I now have a beautiful daughter. She turns 3 this weekend.
Wow.
She's a total three-nager at times. And if anyone's had children, they may know exactly what I'm talking about. So you have moments you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. But on the other hand, I was sitting there the other night laying in bed and she had snuck into my room. And as a toddler, they just feel like they have to have their face right up against yours, right? No personal space. And I'm just laying there trying to sleep and I'm just hearing her breathe. And I realized I can't put a price tag on that. Right. These doctors just helped give me the daughter, and that's going to be a generational impact. And in the spirit of intention, you know, being achievement minded and being a mom, I've got my work baby and my baby, and I'm always juggling the priorities, but I know they've given me the shot to really pour into that next generation, and I just can't put a price tag on that one, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so awesome. And being a husband and a father and now grandpa too, I can totally relate to that. And I definitely hear you when, 'cause there is definitely times, periods in life when you have kids that there is no privacy, that there is no personal space.
None whatsoever.
I remember those days. So, yeah. Well, first of all, before I ask any other question, I want to make sure is that everyone that you wanted to honor today, or is there anybody more? I want to make sure if there is anybody else you want to honor, I want to make sure you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think as I think through it, those ones really stick out to me as making a huge difference. As I think in alignment with my values, my faith is something that's very important to me. So you know, again, I'm going to go back. I have achievement as a value, but I know all of my achievements, if it weren't for just being thankful for all that God has given me and the opportunities and being with there along the way, I just always have to have gratitude there. Another thing I just can't put a price tag on. And I know as I lean into my faith, as I do my work and as I live my personal life, I just really hope that in what we do, that I can continue to make an impact in the lives of others, both personally, professionally. And I don't think we always know when our actions are going to have, let's call it $1 million impact on somebody else. But if we keep showing up with goodness, we show up with gratitude and acknowledging our blessings, it puts us on the right foot to see opportunity and to really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, and once again, to this question, I know you'll be able to come up with lots of examples, and once again, I just want to challenge you to come up with one. But what's an example of a situation where you personally, Morgan, got to make a really substantial impact. And maybe in the moment, maybe it even surprised you a little bit, but you also know that would have never been possible if not for your relationship with any one of the people that you've talked about today. What's an example of something like that?
Hmm. I think so where I've been able to make an impact because of the relationship with one of these individuals. The giving back in our community is something that is really important to me. There's a local charitable organization called Grace
Okay.
that we support that helps the underserved in our community that really need help. And that's been a charity that, as a business, I've been able to support in their endeavors and help those who need it the most. And for me, my mindset has always been we give back from what we're given. And I think, especially with the relationship with Gary and just being able to be a business owner and really grow that business has allowed me to give more back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I I hope in the years to come that'll be more and more sizable, but I just that's really ingrained in some of my core values.
Yeah.
And I don't like to go into a lot of details about specifics on it, but I think having a business that's growing and can give back, I wouldn't have a business if it weren't for my relationship with Gary, or it definitely wouldn't look the way it does today. And so that's an area that warms my heart.
That is awesome. I am so with you on that. That it's this whole idea of giving and receiving. I I've always been this really giving and generous person. And in fact, I don't know a better feeling than the feeling that comes from giving to someone who just really appreciates it. And but for most of my life, I pretty much sucked it when it comes to the receiving side, or God forbid, asking for what I want. And because I didn't want to bother people, I didn't want to inconvenience them, or
Mhm.
God forbid, what would they know if what would they think of me if they knew I was dealing with that? so and so I just wouldn't do it. But about what 2012. So it's wow, 13 years. Time flies. My buddy Jesse just really gave me some new perspective, and he's like, Kev, he's like that feeling that you get from giving to others that you like so much. He's like that feeling. He's like you're depriving others from having that same feeling that you just told me that you think is the most amazing feeling ever. But he's like you're depriving others from that by not allowing them to give to you. And it was such a profound experience. And it really changed my perspective on this. And I know for me personally, we've been living in this home for 17 years now. We love this home. And now that our kids are starting to all get grown and out of the house and stuff, we'll probably start downsizing because once it is just my wife and I, we don't need this big of a home. But other than that, I mean, I love this home. I love the view. I couldn't even imagine moving. And same way when we're driving the vehicles we want to drive, we got food on the table. We get to take time off and vacations when we want. And so more revenue, more money ceased being an inspirational thing for me a long time ago. But impact now, that is an inspirational thing for me. And when we get to create more revenue from that, um, we just get to give it away. We get to share it with other people. We've got a family foundation that we started in '08, and we love doing stuff as a family through that. And at Christmas time, all of our older kids, we just give them the debit card for the family foundation and say, hey, you can go out, and whether you go through a church, whether you go through the food bank or whatever, just find a family and just go provide for them for the holidays and stuff, and go buy them Christmas gifts and go buy them food for Christmas dinner and do all that stuff. And the kids love doing that every year, and that they just have the credit card and they can just go do that and just do whatever they want, and they can however they want to support that family. And it's been, and it's been it it's been so rewarding for them to be able to have that experience. And in fact, I remember the first year, years ago, that my oldest daughter, did that. She was like, man, Dad, she goes, I wish I could just do this all the time. you know? And so, and
Well, there's things we can take for granted,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think about it this past season with our local school district, the the children going back to school that I mean we take for granted, fresh socks, fresh underwear,
yeah.
some of those just basic clean t-shirts, things that I hope I'll always be able to provide for my daughter. But when for the families that are struggling, if you can make a difference in providing some of those essentials, there's the impact, I think. And that's where you have to sit there though and really think about what are some of your top values and are you leaning into them. When you were talking about all of that earlier too, though, it made me think about mentorship, Kevin.
Mhm.
And that's another thing. Again, I don't know that the impact is the impact is definitely there. It may not always be $1 million, but I think the series of them will add up. When I started my career, I was in a sales environment where it was probably 10% female,
Okay.
and I was the youngest person on the sales desk. I started in downtown Boston um, with a culture that was polar opposite from Southern California, where I had just moved from.
Mhm.
So I felt a little bit like a fish out of water starting out in my career. And then as things continued to move forward, I realized I probably needed good female mentors, but that was something that it was a little intimidating to ask for.
Okay.
And Gary, when I joined Ameriprise, he would introduce me to some of the successful female advisors he knew and just try to connect me. And those women, there's a handful of women that have just poured into my life that over time, what do they have on me? They have more years. They have more years and experience that they can still share with me. And I will now, really advocate for young women starting in finance that go find mentors. You're not too young, don't hesitate. This is a great career and you can get so much out of those relationships. So, whether in so many ways, just relationships in general, you never even know where all of them are going to lead, but they make such an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Morgan, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today. And for anybody who's sitting here at this point in time going, wow, Kevin, I really love Morgan. I love who she is. I love how she shows up. And maybe there's even some folks thinking like, maybe they can help us out and stuff. Any websites, any resources we can share with folks?
Yes. So we have a website. It's intentionallegacybook.com.
Okay.
And I would recommend that to anyone who'd like a copy of the book that we wrote and we put out. And a lot of the feedback I've had is, wow, this is something I wish I would have read 20, 30 years ago. I really want my children to read it. It really helps give the perspective on the type of advice we give and just the breadth of areas that it covers that a lot of people don't realize is part of the advice relationship or the type of advice that we strive for with our clients and digging deeper. um, Also my website is lifebranchwealth.com, so that's a great place to go and connect with me. Shoot me a message, always glad to have a conversation with anyone.
Awesome. Awesome. Any last thing you feel led to share, Morgan, before we call it a wrap?
I just think we get one shot at this life. So we might as well make it as intentional as and impactful as possible. And so taking those moments to step back and look at, who has made an impact in our lives and how can we be grateful for that, but also how can we pay it forward? Because in my life, I sit there and I wake up every day, and I think having a 3-year-old puts it very front of mind for me. It's, if I just do what I'm doing and I don't intentionally think about what I'm doing and why, she's going to be 15 and I'm not going to get those years back.
Yeah.
But waking up every day and figuring out how do we make a difference and how do we make a difference in the areas that mean most to us, if we're doing that, we are going to have wonderful relationships and we are really going to be making an impact that extends well beyond,
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, once again, I want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today. And I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs because I know it's going to be really impactful. So thank you again, Morgan.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet.